slightly mad. I'm going slightly mad.
Hello everybody. Hello Aloysius, how are you? You're very, very good. But you're a bit confused about why we're here. Because we're doing a video. I thought we were on holidays. No, we finally worked out what we're going to do while we were on holidays, and now we've worked out what we're going to do. And what we're going to do? Infrequent videos. So I haven't been here very much. We did an interview with Narelle King, and I haven't been here much this year, but I usually do writing advice. But we decided that I would do writing advice when I have an idea to do writing advice, rather than trying to make it a schedule, because a lot of writing advice videos get pretty repetitive. Yeah, they do. They get pretty repetitive. But we had an idea, and so here we are this week. But before we get there, remember, if you want to support us, there is our shop and our Redbubble shop. Yes, and there's over 100 designs on the Redbubble shop, and there are books and writing services on our shop. What if they don't want to spend any money? That's fine. If you don't want to spend any money, that's fine. We'd love it if you like, subscribe, share the videos, and comment on the videos. Love that. So that is how the nice people can support us. Yes. Are we good? Yeah, we're good. We're good, Aloysius. Okay, so that's how people can support us. What are we talking about today? Well, I decided that we would talk about being creative or continuing creative projects when you are insanely busy. Like we've been. Yes, like we've been. We have been insanely busy, and it's been quite difficult to do some things that we would normally be doing because we've been so busy. So we wanted to talk about that, didn't we? Yes, because it's been hectic. It has been hectic. It's been very hectic lately. So when life is hectic, one of the first things that disappears from your life is generally creative stuff, because creative stuff generally needs time and it needs calm, and it's also often the thing that is not necessarily bringing in money. And if your life is hectic because you're prioritizing the job that brings in money, it gets very easy to just say, I'm really tired. I did something that brought in money. I'm just going to veg out in front of the television. Yeah. Instead of doing something creative. But what happens when we do that is that we end up in a situation where not doing creative things starts to feel really wearing on us. If you're a creative person, it gets really wearing to not be able to do any creative activities. And when you don't do creative activities, what happens is that bleeds out into other areas of your work and your life, and you start to get very cranky and very angry. You can get very resentful of the paid work that you do, and that's not good. Is not good, especially since so many writers and creative people do need that other income. I think the Penguin Random House. Yes, yes. Thank you for reminding me. One of the most interesting things that happened fairly recently is that Penguin Random House was wanting to merge with another publishing company, taking the big 5 down to a big 4, had that been allowed to go ahead. And the American government, in a anti-close down of corporation, thingy, legal thingy, they brought this case to court. And one of the most interesting things that came out of this court case, because publishers are, especially the big publishers, are very, very cagey about how books do, how much writers earn, and up to 50%, between 19 and 50% of authors published by a big 5 publisher sell 12 books on average. 12 books. So the idea that, oh, I got a big publisher and I'm going to be made is just, no, unfortunately. We now know that the majority of the publishing industry is held up by a small number of writers who sell huge astronomical numbers. We also discovered that publishing is more or less throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks, because of the nature of readers being a very fragmented audience. It's not quite the same as a lot of other things, as a lot of other products. And as much as we want to see our writing as self-expression, once you get published, it is a product, and it does become subject to market forces as in that way. As a result, authors generally need alternative income, because nobody's paying the rent off 12 books, not unless they're paying, $1,000 for each book. It's a very unfortunate situation. But so that leaves us with a need for other work. You're not a failure if you need other work. That's just the nature of this whole thing. But other work can be exhausting. Like teaching. Yeah, like teaching, which we've been doing. A lot of different sort of teaching than usual. And it's quite tiring, and it means that creative work is very hard to do. It's much harder to do because you are tired. So how do you keep your creative tanks full and not just let everything just, oh no, I'm really tired, I'm just going to let it go, because it's easier to just let it go. Because ultimately it's not easier, and it leaves you miserable. Anyone who has been stuck, forced to sacrifice their creative life for, basically making ends meet, is going to tell you how much that sucks. So what are some options? So me, because a lot of the work that I have been doing has been very extroverted, I have not been writing this past year. I fully intended to write. I have ideas for at least 2 books, 3 books that I would like to work on, but I don't have time to work on those. I have a lot of other commitments with things. I have a lot of work commitments. I have a lot of business commitments. I just don't have time to write. Now, I could get really upset and miserable about writing and the fact that I can't write, or I could lean into the fact that I'm already doing quite an extroverted style of work, because I know part of the reason I'm finding it hard to write and actually aren't even trying is because doing a very extroverted style of work at the moment, what happens is I find it very hard to change gear and get into the very introverted space that I need to be in, and very reflective space that I need to be in and need to stay in order to write. So instead of stripping my gears in an attempt to move backwards and forwards between these 2 states rapidly, which not a great situation, not good for my mental health. No, It makes you crazy. Yes, it makes me crazy. Not and you can't write when you're crazy. No, you can't write when you've been made crazy by that. But not doing something creative makes me miserable. So instead of attempting to move back and forward between introvert and extrovert states, I am leaning into the extroverted side of things and putting my creativity into this. This is providing me with a creative outlet. I am leaning into the fact that I am doing a lot of teaching at the moment, and therefore I can lean into continuing with that same energy here. I am doing this after work. So not something I usually do, but I really wanted to film this. So we are filming after work, leaning into the very extroverted energy that I have available to me, but doing it in a creative way. So that's one thing, is lean into the energy that you do have available to you. Don't try and fight the energies that you're working with. If you are in very introverted energies, that might be easier for doing some writing, but it might not. You might actually find that you need to have an extroverted outlet. I likewise do need that introverted energies, but I'm finding that outlet in a different way. How else? Well, how else can we engage in creative acts? Reading, filling the tank, using the time. Okay, I can't produce anything, but I can fill the tank. So filling the tank can be reading, it can be engaging with other people's artwork, it can be watching films, it can be doing your research so that you when you have the time and you have the energy to do the actual work, you have the groundwork done. It could be journaling. So those are all things, all that groundwork stuff, the stuff that you use to create, to help with inspiration, stuff that is, and this is really important if you are very, very busy with other things, stuff that is low outcome, where you're not putting big pressure on the outcome to be anything. You're not writing the novel. You are reading around what you want to write about. You are making sure that when you finally do write, you've got your research under you. You know exactly where you're going to go with this. You can do planning. You can do character mock-ups. We have a whole bunch of really good planning materials on the website. They can be things that you can be working on. You can use those pauses that you have in life, those shower thoughts. They're great, shower thoughts. And you start thinking, oh, well, maybe I could do this and maybe I could do that. Sometimes you're not even going to do something creative like that. Sometimes the important thing is to recognize creativity in other areas. So you completely take the pressure off the creative act that you are working on, the creative work that you're working on, book, painting, whatever. Maybe you relish, in order to just fill your own creative tank, relish the fact that you can be creative making food. You can try a recipe that you've never done before. If you're a cook, I'm not talking about people who do not enjoy cooking and who are like find cooking very stressful. No, don't do that. Don't do that. You will not find that particularly relaxing. But if you enjoy cooking, see that as a creative act. See, gardening can be a creative act. Not necessarily doing, just the act of gardening, the act of even weeding is creative, because you are cultivating your environment and you're making yourself feel better. Because that's ultimately what we do have creativity for. I think that part of the reason that we get so upset when we can't do creative things and that we get a bit of tunnel vision around it is because we've been put into a mindset of, if the work I'm doing is not economically viable, then it is not valuable. And I'm going to tell you that any creative act is valuable because it's going to help you as a human being feel like a human being. Not every single thing needs to have an economic outcome. So there are times when it's like, I'm not going to put pressure on my creative side to produce an economic outcome. There is not anything wrong with wanting to produce something that has an economic outcome. I'm not shading that. And I'm not saying you should turn your art into a hobby either. But there are times when we have to think, okay, this isn't the time to be producing work that we want to be selling. This is the time to look after ourselves, not other people. We're looking after ourselves and making sure that when we have the time, when we have the right energy, we can actually bring it and produce something that is of value to other people, because you are no value to anyone if you end up a burnt out, grumpy husk because you haven't done anything creative. Yeah, exactly. It's exactly like that. Like, I mean, how many times have we done this? We have done this over and over and over again. It's really embarrassing how many times we did this when we were younger. Finally, if you really, really have to, like you just have to, you're like, I cannot bear to not work on this, then that is when you have to be ruthless with yourself. You have to decide, am I spending time scrolling on Instagram or TikTok? Am I wasting a lot of time watching television? How much recovery time do I genuinely need, and how much am I numbing out? Because genuine creative work will feel nourishing. It will feel like eating a good meal. Yes, you might be tired. No, you mightn't be able to do 3 hours worth, but you might be able to do 30 minutes. And you're going to say, 30 minutes, really? Is that worth doing? Yes. If you are feeling that you absolutely have to do this, but you have very limited time to do it, 30 minutes. Pick a time and do that thing for 30 minutes. I'm not going to say get up super early. I don't know what your schedule is. I don't know how much you want to get up at 5:30 in the morning. I did that. I did that for quite some time, but I was younger then. I did that when I was in my mid-30s. And it was fine. Now I don't want to do that. I don't like getting up before the sun. I do it when I have to, but if I don't have to, I'm not doing it. But I will find other times when I can work. So that's what's really important. You have to decide, is this important to me? Numbing will not fill your tank. That is the most important thing. No, going down a scroll hole is pretty empty. Going down a scroll hole is so empty, and you get to the end of it. You can spend a weekend down a scroll hole thinking, I'm really tired, I don't want to do this. And you get to the end of your weekend and you're exhausted. And you're like, well, where did my weekend go? Well, you didn't fill the tank. You just consumed, and you consumed low value stuff. So take the pressure off yourself, work with the energy that you have, see creativity in other activities that you do have time or energy to do. And fourthly, make sure if you are doing it, do it. Like, take the time to feed your creative side, even if it is for a much shorter time than you would have liked. But just take that time rather than numbing yourself out, because when you numb yourself out, it's not good for you. You will get a much better dopamine hit from actually doing your creative work than you would from hours and hours of numbing activities. So, you mean we have to have creativity in our lives? We have to have creativity in our lives. Okay? Especially if we are creative people and creative professionals, we have to have it. And if we are creative professionals who do not have the luxury of being economically supported by our creativity, then we have to do things to protect our creativity and our mental health when we are also perhaps busy in another area that pays the bills. Okay? So we will be back at some other time. We're not doing this regularly. It's only when we have an idea. But we will be back in the future. So, do you have anything else to say, Aloysius? No. Okay. We'll be back in the future. And so, bye-bye. Bye-bye. Der Volker Finger, ich bin ja Jesus. If you would like to support this channel, come across to the Black Cockie Press website, www.blackcockiepress.com.au, where you will find books and other writing services to help with your writing.